Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about my reading plans for the month of October. And yes, there will be a little bit of extra horror mixed in here this month for Halloween, as I think a lot of us do here on BookTube. But before we talk about October, I do want to talk about a book that is going to be carrying over from the month of September, and that is The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. I plan to start this book here at the end of September, which I am going to do, but I know there's no way that I'll finish it. It's a pretty long fantasy book, and so that will definitely bleed into the first little bit of October. I plan on this being my plane read. I'm going on a trip. I'm going to the World Deadlift Championships in Las Vegas here, and I'm also doing some other things in and around Las Vegas I think I'm there for 5 days. So this is going to be kind of my plane read. I will be driving to the Grand Canyon and Zion Park as well, or Zion National Park as well. So I think that this will kind of be my audiobook going for those, because they are not short drives, but they're also not like super long. So it'll be a good listening opportunity. But now let's talk about some of the new stuff for October, and we'll go ahead and start with the horror reads I plan on doing this month. And the first one is one I actually saw Mike from Mike's Book Reviews talk about, and this is how I figured it out. I'm going to be reading along with him. You go watch his video. He always has a really great October slate of books to read, but that would be All the Fiends of Hell, and that is by Adam Neville. This is like a first contact alien story that is a horror story, so I think it goes very, very poorly for humans. It kind of sounds like it gives me a mixture of like A Quiet Place / Alien vibes a little bit. So I'm not, like I said, I never go too in depth of what is going on in a book because I like to just kind of experience it. But I really like the Alien movies, and so when I kind of got that vibe from it, this was one that really shot up to the top of my list. The next horror book, and there's a funny story behind this one. So the next one up is The Deep by Nick Cutter, and I read The Troop by Nick Cutter last year, had a really good time with it. Definitely some body horror stuff that like doesn't work the best for me. It's a little much, and it kind of gives me like the chills a little bit. I guess that's kind of what you want in a horror book. So I'm not 100% sure if some of those elements are here in The Deep. But the funny story about The Deep is I'm reading this book because this book creeped my girlfriend out so much that she wouldn't finish it. She said it just was too much for her and she wouldn't finish it. So I'm going to finish it so that I can tell her the ending. So I'm kind of excited to do that. That should be a fun little experience where I get to tell her what happens and everything. But so this one has been on my list for quite a while because of that. So hopefully Nick Cutter can deliver here again. Like I said, The Troop was a good time. I think it was in my top 10 from last year. So October delivered last year, Nick Cutter delivered last year, and I'm hoping that he can do it again here with The Deep. Now, also in October, I'm going to be trying something new for the first time, and that is going to be my first Romantasy read. And I am staying away from one of like the big ones, like a Sarah J. Maas or whatever. I don't want to start like a big long series or anything, but it is becoming such a popular niche of the fantasy genre that I feel like I need to read some of it to just experience what's going on and just be able to kind of have an idea. I don't want to be somebody who's talking blindly about something without having experienced it at all. I feel like, I've got to at least give it a chance. So while I'm hoping that this story is less on the romance side and more on the magical animal side, because this is The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean, and basically from the synopsis I read, it sounds like this takes place in a magical zoo. And so my real hope here is that we deal a lot more with the magical creatures and like how a magical zoo would work, and I'm hoping there's a lot that goes on there, and the romance is still a part of the story, because I do want this to be like a romantasy experience for myself, but I'm hoping that it's not the main focus and that it's kind of like a good blend. This is a new release, so I don't really know if anybody else has read it, if it's like highly praised or anything. I just thought that the premise sounded really good. I love zoos, I love animals and stuff, so to have like a fantasy setting in that, I felt like would be a good bridge to kind of bring those two things together, and hopefully I have a good time. I don't see why I wouldn't. I don't mind romance and other like stories. It's never been something that I've read as like a sole focus on, but some of my favorite books have really like strong romance elements to them, or I don't want to say overly strong, but they do have romance elements to them. So hopefully The Phoenix Keeper can deliver on both fronts. And then my last for sure read is going to be The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. And I think I saw Jimmy compare this to, or gave him Attack on Titan vibes a little bit, because this is a there we go. I can never say that word. Post-apocalyptic world where I think everybody's kind of on an island, and then there's a murder that happens. I think it is slowly, is realized that somebody is kind of committing murders over and over again. And so I just kind of wanted to see what that was like. He sold it to me really hard. I forget which video that was of his, but it just kind of came up on my radar. And I feel like this can almost kind of fit into spooky season, where like murder mystery, that's kind of creepy. Nobody wants to get stabbed while they're asleep or something like that. So that is my for sure. Those are the four 4, or I guess 5 books if you're going to count The Forgetting Moon, that I absolutely plan on getting to in October. And then, as always, because I am a mood reader and tried to also plan a TBR, I do have a couple maybes that I'll get into now. The first one, and this one has been on this maybe section forever, but I just still haven't ever really been in the mood for it, but it is on the top of that list, and that is Starship Troopers. Once again, it just feels like one of those sci-fi books that I should absolutely read at some point, but we'll see if I feel like getting to it, or if I even have time. Who knows? October, I'm planning on not letting vacation ruin my TBR this time, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of plane time, a lot of driving time, and I won't be on my motorcycle this time, so those are opportunities for me to listen to some of my audiobooks. So maybe this month may be one that I actually have a lot more time to read in compared to my last trip I went on. Another one I am considering is called Blood Magic by Greg Bear. This is, I'm not super familiar with it, but I believe he creates some kind of virus, but it's like a technological virus or something that he then injects into himself, and things kind of go awry from there. So that's another one I am considering. Fever Dream by George R.R. Martin. I want to read more from Martin outside of, I've read just A Song of Ice and Fire like everybody else has, and then I read The Ice Dragon from him. This is I think it's technically a short story, maybe it's a novella, it's super short, but I like that. But I want to read like another novel from him that's like outside of some of the fantasy stuff that he has done, and I think I've heard other people speak pretty highly of this one, so it's something that I want to get to at some point, and maybe I'll have time this month. Another book that I might start in October would be The Blackest Heart, which that is book 2 in the 5 Warrior Rangers, so that is the sequel to The Forgetting Moon. If I really like The Forgetting Moon, I'll definitely want to jump into this pretty quickly, and so this will probably be another case where I kind of bridge October into November with this, so we'll just kind of have to see. These are some real long epic fantasy books, so some of that will depend on where I can get it to fit into my schedule. And then I have 3 more. Another one that I might consider picking up is To Ride Hell's Chasm by Jenny Wirtz. I have always enjoyed Jenny Wirtz books. I want to read some more of her stuff. I'm not sure I want to jump into the next part of the Wars of Light and Shadows just yet. I know the next book I read is the start of another arc, and so I know whenever I start that, I'm going to want to just kind of read that whole arc without taking any breaks. So I know I'm kind of in like a really good resting place because the last book was the end of an arc. So I don't want to go too long without reading any of her stuff. So To Ride Hell's Chasm is the other standalone. I've read one other standalone from her, The Master of Whitestorm, and then this is another one, and there's one other one that I can't remember. Storm Warden, maybe, I think is the other one that is a standalone, so that might be another option as well. Wow, a lot of maybes here this month. Another one would be, this was a maybe last month as well, this is Darren, The Empire of Salt. This is one that a friend of mine, Ben from Books with Genghis Khan, has talked very highly about, so this is another, it's pretty short, but this is another one that is kind of a maybe on my list that I want to get to at some point, so we'll see there. And then, because it is October, the odd that a Stephen King book somehow makes its way onto this list is probably pretty high. I don't even know which one it would be. I'm planning on reading The Shining at some point soon. That might be like a November, December read, but it could maybe sneak in here to October. But it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden I just kind of get an itch for King. It's been a little while since I've read one of his books. He has been such a revelation for me this year, so we will see if maybe he can come around and sneak his way onto the October reading list. But that is my plan for October. Let me know, do you really lean into the Halloween, like horror stuff here in October, or are you somebody who doesn't really let it affect their TBR all that much? I definitely let it affect mine a little bit, but 2 books doesn't seem too crazy unless, I get another third one in there with Stephen King. But please do let me know your TBR down below in the comments, and that's all for me. But as always, have a good one.